And now I'm talking to Naomi Lenihan, the coordinator for the European Year for Development in Ireland, working with Dóchas. Naomi, how's it going? Naomi, can you tell us a bit about today, please? We launched this paper.
Today we're launching the world's best newspaper. And the whole idea behind it is it's the news that often doesn't make the headlines. It mightn't make it into the mainstream news, but it's really important news. It's all about positive news of change and inspirational people around the world, ordinary people who are stepping up to the plate, who are saying, I want to make a difference, I want to do something in my community or on a global stage. And it's a really inspiring read. It's 12 pages full of stories from all around the world, and it's collaborated by Dóchas, which is the Irish Association of Non-Governmental organisations, and it's all the development organisations all around the world are giving us these incredible stories of things that they're seeing all the time, of change happening in the world. Because I don't think people realise, because a lot of the news tends to be negative, extreme poverty has halved in the last 15 years, and that's something that we're really highlighting in this newspaper, because we're reaching a point now where the Millennium Development Goals have reached their conclusion, and now the Sustainable Development Goals are going to be agreed in the next few days, and that is a challenge to the world within the next 15 years to completely eradicate extreme poverty, to make poverty history, and to fix climate chaos. And for a lot of people, they think, well, that sounds pretty impossible. And that's because a lot of the news that we receive all the time tells us that things are getting worse, things are bad. But actually the world's best news says, no, actually extreme poverty has halved in the past 15 years. And there are so many changes that have happened. 9 out of 10 children in developing countries are now enrolled in primary school. That's so many children who now have a chance at life, who now have a future, a bright future ahead. And the world's best news highlights these stories to say, no, we can have hope for the future. It is possible.
And it's great. And is it true there are hundreds of volunteers helping us this year? Again with the papers all over Ireland?
All over Ireland. So we have locations in Belfast, in Cork, in Kerry, in Limerick, you name it. We have locations all around the country, and volunteers tomorrow morning, that's Thursday the 17th of September, they'll take to the streets, and everybody is so enthusiastic. It's just, we're so thankful for all the volunteers, because they really want to get out there and spread this good news and bring a bit of joy to people's day.
Yeah, and this year is European Year for Development, but we're like 9 months into the year, so we're only 3 months or 4 months left in the year. But the big thing, as you said, is the launch the end of this month of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the Global Goals for Sustainable Development. I'm not sure what the exact title is, but it's a huge event, isn't it?
It's a huge event, and it's a real moment in history, I think. And you know, when Ban Ki-moon was UN General Secretary Ban Ki-moon was in Ireland recently, he set the challenge. He said this could be the generation to end extreme poverty and fix climate chaos. And I think that's a real, you know, it's a challenge to all of us to take that on board, that could be the legacy of this generation, and it would be a wonderful legacy. And the Sustainable Development Goals is really the pathway to that. You know, we've decided that's what the world wants to do, and the Sustainable Development Goals really sets targets and indicators and helps to focus everyone in a universal way, and that's very important. The whole idea of universality. I mean, we're all developing countries really, and it's about developing together and working together in partnerships north and south of the equator to make this happen.
And if people want to copy the paper, if they're not able to get their hands on a copy tomorrow for some reason, and they want to check out your online news service, how would they find out about it?
So it's dochas.ie, that's dochas.ie. For more information, there's a World's Best News page, which is dochas.ie/WBN, and there you can get the latest edition of the World's Best News, and you can also get a map which shows you all the points tomorrow morning where people will be handing out papers. And not to mention, we'll also have an event tomorrow evening in Merrion Square where we're playing Back to the Future. There'll be a great West African band called Mandan Express. There'll be loads of people gathered to talk about climate change, to watch a good movie, to talk about the eradication of poverty, and to really gather together and say one person really can make a difference.
And will you be able to read, if people aren't able to get their hands on a copy of the paper tomorrow because they're not in the location that there's a hand them out, can you read a copy of the actual this print paper online?
Yes, you can. So
on the Dóchas website.
On the Dóchas website, we have a PDF there, and people can read it online. And there's also, you can follow the World's Best News on Facebook. There's this newspaper, but there's also every week stories are filtering into people's news feeds, and people are reading inspiring stories on Tumblr, on Facebook, and on Instagram. So look up the World's Best News on Facebook.
Okay, Naomi, thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
This time we conscious Ardmhéara Bhaile Cllr Críona Ní Dhálaigh. Críona cógáirdeachas as uchtibh tougher mar Ardmhéara car Bhaile Cllr. Caffar definitely goil an Áthas or in main or will.
Cá tá Áthas agus brod th cimse orm is an or mór agus is dúlgus é cumá tá mise géirí cinnta dhéanamh de go mé Bhaile Cllr ina cahar gohfuil cóin na sean. Léirigh muintear Bhaile Cllr Léirigh muintear Bhaile Cllr nar caiisiid fóta do cóin ó héh pósaide gur siad réig le haid cóin is cahar cóin nach a dhéanamh as Bhaile Cllr.
Agus is square orthu will tú ag caint fi cóin this sort culture fashion.
Just cónanas gach le bhéalta cónanas ó héh like cónanas is carta déine I Motharam carta déine de Gaelgóirí carta déine dómh siúd atá gan dídan carta dómh siúd atá cónaí tithe nachhfuil arúnach iad súd atá ag stracailt tuisgúil pásach a co-íseal agus ó héh cultúr de cumá ach bhhailm an Gaeilge a chur chun tosaigh go háirithe go méid an Gaeilge níos feicálaí go méid géirí enormalú do muinte Bhaile Cllr.
Agus tá sé níl tú id a éonar leis sin tá rudí eile ag tarlú mar hampla plán nua RTE normalú na Gaeilge RTE sin go héantar.
Tá sin iontu mai agus mullam RTE as tú sa chuir lei sin, but the plán ina eile ann tá plán ionach ag chunir na Gaeilge le ionad Gaeilge. Tá Gaeltacht ceathrún Gaeltacht an acaile ihre sé sráid archar agus am go homláán taobhfíor don feachta sin agus bhhailm go mé ahan duine go bhfuil gachanna a baúil don Gaeilge go méid si taobhfíor don feachta sin.
Tá si bh go bhú do bhór plán orbathe cúg bliana nniuach bhfuil?
Tá. Chéad cruniú nocht.
Ok, sin go héintach. Sa plán ratha tá cuirtú rún sios cúg bliana ó hen ag glóir go méach na státííochtta nniu ananthe as Gaeilge agus dlacha leis an rún sin. An bhfuilontaí nua I cuara carb.
No, tá fíorbeagán agus í súna thógach fi an anam tufa rih an plán forbathe deirnach. So cabbéród a thógtar inis cinnta be siad an Gaeilge, but tuisc an hitan amach as eicmíoch an tíir seo, so níor thógach mór an sin an aibh sinna fág bhfuil géir céim tithíochta agin níor thóg siad tithe agus níor dhéon siad in eistú ceart I tithíochta chorbe.
Beidir an sin tú méid Beidir le cé go bhfuil sé sa plán ratha am cór an rún sios a cór sios a rís le.
Well, tá cúpla rún agam héan agus ag Tom Brabison, mar is an bert agin a chrid go leidir do sa plán forbathe deirnach, but cinnta be muidne ag denmh cinnta goil sin fós mar aim. Tá sé fós mar aim in san plán forbathe ratha seo, so leanaí sé raig mar plán agus mar aim.
Sin go héintach just ag fágáil Bhaile Cllr fan nóméid tá muid ag seola an nniuachta an the World's Best News and a heol tú an bhfuil cad a ceapan tú faoi nniuachta agus an tionscanmh seo.
Tá seo tharbheith táhachtach. Tá sé táhachtach seo bliain forbathe an Europe agus tá cluineamid gachlá na drogscéalte agus na rudí na scéalte a bhriseach do crí taachtamach ar fódan down, but ní cluineamid na rudí maithe na rudí atá tarlúnd an obair atá dhéanamh ag daoine agus ag daoine tá go go Jonach agus na NGOs agus an obair atá sísanna déanamh le cuasaí chur chun tosaigh in na tíre bochta na tíretá ag dulsríd forbert agus in san agran seo the World's Best News tá scéalte iontacha ardóg do crí agus atá go dóchas dis go bhfuil rudí ag ahrú sa saoil.
Agus tá dó fartí sin féin, like tá ansim ag glóir de goibh cuasaí idirnáisiúnta nach bhfuil?
Tá, anna chud sim agin, but seo shut down nuach, shut down scale, agus bhilm go clíní ahan na scéalta táistíonn seo. Okay, go mil mag there and
And now I'm talking to Owen Rice from Trócaire. Owen, how's it going? Owen, I enjoying the day here today here? I think it's a good day, a good event?
Yeah, it's a great initiative by Dóchas and the different NGOs to really try and get the positive news out there, because there is so much positive news about development and about combating poverty, and I suppose sometimes we don't really hear about that. We tend to hear more about the negatives, and even as NGOs sometimes we focus more on the negatives and we maybe forget to tell people that actually their help is making a huge difference. So things like the World's Best News and initiatives like that really help get that message out.
And have Trócaire, I think the World's Best News started online 2 years ago. Have Trócaire been involved? Is your first year being involved? Are you involved in the last couple of years?
No, we've been involved from the start. So we've contributed stories to the World's Best News from the beginning. And yeah, it's just about getting those positive stories out. And in this year's issue, for example, we have a story about an irrigation project in Kenya that has really transformed a farmer's life there, in the sense that, you know, water gets brought directly to his fields now, and so he doesn't suffer from the same sort of drought that he used to. So they're really incredibly positive stories, and, you know, stories that are only possible because of people's help in Ireland. So it's a great opportunity to get people to hear those stories.
And now I'm talking to Donncha Maguire from Plan Ireland. Donncha, you're with Plan Ireland now. The last time I was talking, you're a VSO, yeah?
Yeah, I just recently moved to Plan International Ireland, the Media and Communications Officer there. So we're at this event here at City Hall for the World's Best News launch. I think it's really important that all NGOs and development NGOs in particular come together to shout out and celebrate the good things that are actually happening in Africa and Asia. You know, we see obviously with the recent migrant crisis, we see some of the challenges that are affecting the world, but lots of good things are happening. Education programs in West Africa, health programs in Ethiopia. Africa is getting better, more and more kids are going to school. We are seeing reductions in poverty. So progress is being made, and I think it's really important to thank the Irish people for actually the support they give us via Irish Aid and also through public donations and charity activity. So it's really important that events like this, that we actually tell the people that their support is actually making a difference to the lives of children, women and families across Africa and Asia.
And I think the World's Best News started 2 years ago online. Have you been involved just this year or last year?
For the last, I think we've been involved from the start. We've submitted stories and we've been handing out the World's Best News. I think every September around the streets of Dublin, and it's really, people really enjoy kind of seeing good news being given to them on the streets rather than just the bad news that we see in kind of more traditional newspapers. So it's really important.
And now I'm talking to Niamh Daly from Cllr Fund. Niamh, how's it going? Niamh, I enjoyed the day here today. Do you think it's a good event?
Yeah, it's great. It's great just to talk about some good news. You know, there's so much great Irish support around overseas work, and we don't really hear sometimes how well our funding is going, but it's making really big impact overseas. And a day like today, we get to really talk about the good news stories. So we are really making a difference overseas. We so appreciate Irish supporters behind us and all that we do.
Are you with Cllr Fund long?
Yeah, I'm with them a good few years now. So they're a Christian-based, faith-based charity, and we work in a number of different countries, but I suppose our focus really at the moment is on the refugee crises in Syria and directing funds around there. So we're mobilising support and donations to kind of decide what our next tranche of funding is going to be, into what area of the refugee crisis we need to direct that.
And now I'm talking to Sorcha Nick Mahuna from Oxfam. Sorcha, how's it going? Sorcha, you're here representing Oxfam today, aren't you, at the launch for the newspaper for European Year Development? Are Oxfam involved in the publication of it?
Yes, every year we contribute to the World's Best News, which is an initiative by Dóchas, which is the umbrella organisation of different NGOs in Ireland. So what's really nice about this particular project is that it's focusing on all the good news stories that come about as a result of the support of Irish people towards overseas aid and to NGOs like Oxfam. So every year we contribute stories, and a team organised by Dóchas picks out what ones they want to focus on. So this year we've got some of our programme stories in the World's Best News. One of those is Female Food Heroes, which is this innovative project that we have in Tanzania. So it's a bit like X Factor meets Big Brother meets Farm Factor. What it is a reality TV show that was broadcast on one of the main TV channels in Tanzania, and we partnered up with them and to set up this show, which is called Mama Shukalaka, or Female Food Heroes in English. And what happens there is that poor small-scale female farmers from around Tanzania can enter the competition, and the finalists end up living in a reality TV village where they have different tasks to do, and they also have to show young people how, like, the secrets to their farming techniques. And the reason why we've done this project is to try and highlight the really important role that small-scale female farmers are playing in Tanzania, because often their efforts in terms of putting food on the table and their contribution to agriculture is not being recognised often enough. So with this programme, we're kind of highlighting, I suppose, the role of women, and also using the programme as an opportunity to talk about other issues that affect people, like HIV and other issues as well.
I believe farming is the backbone of the African continent. Like, and is it true that there are more small, and the vast majority, obviously, of farmers there are small-scale farmers? Is it true that the majority of small-scale farmers are women?
Yes, and in many instances you'll find that small-scale farmers are most often women. I suppose for centuries, I suppose women have been focused on planting, growing, looking after livestock, crops, etc. And what we do, so a lot of our work in Oxfam is focused on supporting women in agriculture in countries like Tanzania and also Rwanda and elsewhere. So a lot of the farming that's done in Africa is done by women. But we find that often they don't have opportunities to own land, so though they might be farming the land, there are issues there about land rights which we're also working on. And also what we do as well is we try and provide them with access to services, to training, etc. There's one statistic out there that says that if female farmers had the same access to tools, seeds, credit as male farmers, they'd be able to feed another 100 million of the world's poorest people. So we believe that by supporting female farmers, that has a massive impact on actually lifting people out of poverty and ending hunger.
Anish Tom McCoincha Sorka Nick Verhuna o Oxfam Aaron Sorka Constat Sorka Tatu and Shut in you Shola at the World's Best News New York Down Blintil o Dóchas August Tatu and Shut Hard Count Oxfam Aaron on will shiv on will point to go lesh on New York Down Shut.
Tá gach bliain bhí muid a chur scéalta agus gríomhreathna le chéile agus seola muid iad isteach chuig Dóchas. Si Dóchas an daoine atá mar agrathirí ar an nuacht an seo, dar ban the World's Best News. Tháinig an conceap an Danmhairg a dús seirtá gceist ná nuachtáin a dul an daoine amach go dtí daoine maidir amháin den bliain, like mar hampa daoine tá chatteach agus stáisiún Houston agus ar an Luas Marchande, agus tá nuachtáin seo éagsúil a gach nuachtáin eile mar bíonn sé ag díriú ar na scéalta maithe, na scéalta dearfacha atá taca marall ar cúnamh idirnáisiúnta agus marall ar an tslí inamín an pobal ag taú le agrachtaí in Éireann ar nós Oxfam Éireann. So when they're laying to treat and nucht on show faggot to scale to measure la aherha jarfacha ta taka seal na nini marial ferbert chidra no shunta agus lena churmagistrach couple scale in a mask scale we trustnever tar shulag into tanzon they're banam female food heroes shirta gesh and shin no gumin midge egg giri and roll tovatach I mean ta egg fermori buchte mra sa tanzon a Cllr mar gomininic ní bhín stádas ordachu goháitiúil nó go náisiúnta agus cé go bhfuil siad an táhaach a híomh talmhaíocht na tíortha ní bhín an ról sin stocha méil an phobal anna chuid. So táid I borcnéireacht le ceannas na stáisiún telefíse smús tanzán chuirmid Cllr le chéile ar an telefís bhín siúil gachíthe ar fa seachtain na bhó agus bín na mílte mná chuirteach ar áiteán agus chain idirde agus fithe isteach go dtí an Crave agus bín Russian in a gcónaí is reality TV village mar dearfa agus gach seo bín siad ag tuisbáint na sciilna acu ag déanamh tasc na éagsúil agus freisinnig múna de daoine óga an cathair chun is mar déanamh siad fearmórachta agus a seo tar éis ceithre go mór ó híomh stádas mnátág fearmóracht a orú agus tá sagin go bhfuil lá phobal an tanán tar éis an chlór seo eáil ar an telefís nó éisteacht faoi ar an radio agus chomáile sin tá scéim text fóisiáil an, so is féidir leis an pobl a bheith ag text fóisiáil don búteir agus tá sé tá an concept sin is chorrathúil go méid ó dhéanamh inis a tíortha eile faoi láthair.
Sin go héntaach bhís ag bathnahar sin ar Twitter agus ar bhór leat Facebook. Agus a caiint fhí fermórlacht tá níla is é fórmhór na níní an éan é seo tócha deirfinn ach tá fermórlacht mar an tionscadal is mó is an Africa, right?
Yeah, agus bí tá talmhaíocht an táhachtach mar bhí annach chutínig brathair marhealaach an tíor ortha marhealach bhil tionscliath cho ferbertha. So annach chuid just an daoine mín muid na gobar le is fearmóí iad na daoine tá ag fós barí na martide nó go bhfuil anmhethe acu agus bíonn siad ag brag go mór ar na hiireachtaí sin chun bí chur fáil dus na páistí agus chun income dhéanamh ach bhín annach chuid dúchláin na gceiste sin mar hampla ahrú airróide na sinna gahrú cuasaí amstra nó freisin tá sé Jackar de fearmóí buchta teachtar ar credfas chun beidir ferbert dhéanamh ar an tralbhatá acu agus mar sin agus gomininic ní bhíonn siad ar an olalas maidir leis na scileanna nó na technolíocht is déine a bhéadach ceú le fearmórt a bhd níos fearr dhéanamh. So bín midna ag gobar chorcha le mná mar bín is mná smú bín bainteach leis an talmhaíocht san Afric agus gomininic cé go mín bhfuil siad an gafa leis ní nó cearta talún acu annach chuid cósanna. So muidir ceú le teacht ar cearta talúna ach freisin a ceú le chun teach le chéile credfas aáil tréáil aáil agus mar hapla cooperative is mar sin de a chur le chéile.
Bhain sé fear chun rá bhfuil fórmhór na fearmóí san Afric mar mná.
Well, tuigim ó híomh na statisticí gur bíad mná chuid smúd tromlach na fearmóí san Afric agus ach cé gurbééis sin an cós bín annach chuid dúchláin a gceist gomráid le féirtág fearmórt. Tá statistic eile an a déireann do mar é go bhfuair ban fearmóí an takeíad céine le fear sé sin credfas trénos mar sin de déitú siad ní smú bí chur fáil agus déiteach an bí sin dulchuig an 100 milliún duine breise ar dain, de mar é go raibh na seansna céine acu. So sinna fáil go mín obair Oxfam an díirithe ar mar nótág fearmórt chun ceú le mar Ardmhéara má tugann tú takeíocht dómh déine sin annach chuid difriocht ó thaobh buchtanas a leis generalta.
And now I'm talking to Mamba Jabi, the director of the Africa Centre. Mamba, how's it going?
Thanks, Darren. Everything is fine.
That's great. How's life in the Africa Centre now?
Life is okay in the Africa Centre. We're still kind of struggling with fundings and like everyone else, but I think the activities are going slowly. They are going fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have. I was looking at. You have. Are you involved in the culture night?
Yeah, this year we participated in the culture night as our first time, and then we are having drumming circles, and also we have African DJ playing African music. We have food, coffee, tea for people to come. So yeah, we are really happy that we are part of the culture night this year, and it's something that we hoping that we will be engaged every year on.
And when is that on?
That's on this Friday, and it's from 7 o'clock to 10:30 at the Methodist Church in the Lower Abbey Street, just opposite the Abbey Street Lewis stop.
Okay, I'll be talking to you again about how life is in the Africa Centre anyway. I still haven't been there yet. What do you think of today's launch of the world's best news?
I think it was very interesting, and then personally, like the few moments I think we need to actually reflect on with today's launch, but also what is happening in the world today. The world has changed dramatically from 2000 when the Millennium Development Goals were established. So this year the Millennium Development Goals are ending, and then we are actually looking forward to the Sustainable Development Goals. and the whole continent of Africa has changed as well. Like people are moving in large numbers, economic growth is happening, and then the societies have changed 15 years ago where they were. So and I think like the opportunity for the world best news is that, because if you look at the newspaper, what they are bringing is actually positive news that is happening in African countries. It's totally different from fundraising materials. It's totally different from what you see on the newspapers and on the televisions, all talking about negative things like poverty, disease, starvation, and wars. So what the world best news is actually bringing is the realities of what people are doing in their life and how they are actually improving their life. And that's also linked to our call, especially for the Africa Center, to say that, hey, look, the Sustainable Development Goals, we should approach it as global citizens, because we want to achieve the development, sustainable development by 2030. And in that, we want to make sure that we actually limit inequalities, what is happening. It's not inequalities only in African countries, it could be in Ireland as well. So that's actually the best thing for today. And I think in the next few weeks to the launch of the Sustainable Development Goal, it will be very interesting to reflect back on 15 years ago, where we are now and where do we want to go, which is, I think it should be an interesting thing for everyone. Okay. Yeah, no, I just think that like also this is something that I think people need to embrace, the world best news, especially in the NGO sector, to actually bring positive side of their programs that are happening in countries for people in Ireland to know, because public education is very important. If we are fighting for the attainment of the 0.7% on the development funding, we need to also educate the public of the good things that are happening in terms of overseas development as well, because everyone needs development. Ireland needs development before, that's where Ireland is at the moment, and countries also need that. But also we shouldn't forget the NGO sector shouldn't forget about the private sector as well. I think we need to bring the private sector with us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, because no matter what we do, they are already going to go and do business there. So we need to actually work with them to make sure that we achieve something by 2030.
Yeah, and like if there was if there was a lot more activism in Ireland now for international development and sustainable development and all the global solidarity, like the world's best news, if there was more people working on it, we could have it coming out, say, 4 times a year, then 6 times a year, like in print, like a newspaper coming out, coming out more regularly. Like.
Because I think like if the NGO sector, the civil society sector, actually engage in enlightening the public about what is happening in international development, and then put out the good news there, actually it can go even like every month, because like people are buying other newspapers on the shelves every day. So why not the world best news? Because like it's actually educating people on what is happening at the global level, especially in the global south, in the developing world, you name it. But like I think what people really want to see is that what is happening there in terms of development in those countries, and what is happening there positively that they can put their money towards. So because like I think there's a fatigue that people are always seeing all these negative stuff all the time. So the more they are seeing, the more positive, I think they'll be willing to actually support to achieve the 0.7, but also in terms of development funding as well. Yeah, no, thanks very much, Darren, and then yeah, take care.
Okay, thanks, Mama.
Thank you.